Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Owens, and this is another episode of Behind the Unicorn. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. All right, we have a guest here today, Mr. Craig Kiriokos.
What's up, buddy?
Hey man, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
This is great.
Before we get going too far into this episode, could you describe it in one word? What do you think we're going to get?
Hopefully inspiring.
Inspiring. All right. I watched a video of yours today on the way into the office on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
they say you shouldn't watch TV while you're driving.
I listened. Yeah, I listened. I just listened. Yeah. What is the YouTube channel?
Craig Kiriokos.
All right. How do you spell Kiriokos?
Not like it sounds. Kiriokos.
All right. So I got the word is motivation.
Oh,
you're about to get motivated.
And inspired.
I promise you. Yeah. Get ready.
Let's do it.
All right. Craig, what makes you a unicorn?
Man, what makes me a unicorn? I would say I hold myself accountable, or I hold myself to a higher level of accountability than I think most people would hold themselves.
Ooh. You know? I like it. Sorry, guys.
Oops. No, man, I think at the end of the day, one thing that and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, but one thing that I realized about my life is that no one's like coming to do anything for me. No one's going to come help me or pull me out of a tight situation. I mean, if I'm not doing it, no one is.
Yeah. Hashtag situation.
Exactly.
That's my favorite word when I have
situation.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just higher standard.
Yeah, I think
standard.
Yeah, I hold myself to a high standard, and I'm pretty unwavering in that. You know, I think sometimes I've had this conversation with people, and they're like, "Man, you should give yourself a break," or like, "Don't be so hard on yourself." And a part of me sympathizes with that concept, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I should be a little easier on myself, or I should give myself a break, or whatever it is. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, I know what my life looked like 10 years ago. And I know what my life's going to look like 10 years from now. And I can't take my foot off the gas.
So in 2013, it was way different, you're telling me.
Completely different.
Upside down world.
Oh, yeah.
It was opposite world.
Yeah. It was bad.
No, that's interesting. I feel the same way. I mean, like, even when it comes to, like, I'm trying to do something with food, I'm trying to do something with business, I'm trying to do all these things. And people take a break. You're like... Yeah, but that's not like where the endurance and the growth happens, right? If I take a break, then sometimes I take steps back I relax.
Well, and I think like to that end, when you kind of give yourself these breaks and you kind of slow down for these like momentary pauses, I think your brain starts to just associate that as a normality. Yeah. And it becomes not a one-time thing. It's not the exception. It becomes the rule. Like, yeah, I give myself these breaks, or I take it easy on these days, or you know, I'm not going to work from 7 to 7. Whatever it is. Yeah. But it just becomes the norm, and then it becomes like the law, so to speak. Yeah. Rather than the exception. And I think if you flip-flop that and you're like, no, I do this every single day. I mean, it's the reason I go to the gym 7 days a week. It's because I feel like I can't not.
Yeah.
Otherwise I start on a downward trajectory.
That's funny that you say that. My goal for 2023 is to exercise. Have I told you this? Exercise every day. Yeah. So like my day off is like, I don't feel like working out. You still have to get up and do at least 30 push-ups, or you have to at least I have to move myself forward. And I will tell you, these muscles are getting harder.
Can I feel them?
Yeah. So I'm going to change my words to from one word to two words, and it's going to be called mind reading. It's a mind reading. You're reading my mind over here, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I dig it.
Yeah. Before we get too far, our episode sponsor, DesignTunnel. Check this out. All right, back to it. Back to business here. Man, tell us about your daily routine. You already got in 7 days a week you work out, but what else you got going on every day?
Okay, so I'm pretty religious about my morning routine. And this is not something that I've always done, but I would say for probably the last 2.5, 3 years, I've been incredibly consistent at it, and it's just my thing. It's just what I do. So 4:30, I'm up, or actually between 4:30 and 4:40. That's my grace.
But you use the alarm or not?
I do use an alarm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually I set the alarm in the counter in the bathroom.
You're such a jerk.
Because otherwise, you can reach over, hit the snooze button.
Yeah.
And I've done that in the past where I wasn't even meaning to. Like I wake up late and I don't even realize that I had hit the alarm or turned it off.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure I actually get out of bed.
Yeah.
And there's this Mel Robbins, who's an author and kind of motivational speaker. She talks about this 5-second rule, and it's something that I try and incorporate into my my subconscious.
Yeah.
And it's just that, like, if you're waiting to do something, or if you're getting ready to do something, whether that's getting out of bed or starting a task or whatever it is, we naturally have this tendency to delay to like plan. But she says if you just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just start taking action, you'll do it. And so that's kind of my thing. I get out of bed. The alarm forces me to get out.
Okay.
And then I like stand there for a second. I'm like, oh.
You just count the beeps.
Yeah.
5.
All right, here we go.
That's
but
cool.
So I get up consistently 4:30, 4:40. Some people say this is not good and probably killing my adrenal glands, but the first thing I go for is a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I stretch out. So I grab my coffee, go sit down. I've got a rug in my office. And I go sit down on my rug.
Later,
stretch
you're
out.
Turn into a pretzel for us.
You know it. And so what I'm trying to do is, one, I'm just trying to like open my body up.
Sure.
And I had a lot of like tense muscles and low back pain and things years ago.
Yeah.
And I always thought like something was defective or broken or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized that I was just tight, like
Yeah.
super tense. And so stretching every day loosens me up, helps me feel good, and kind of gives my mind time to wake up. So I wake up, grab my coffee, go stretch. Sometimes I will read, sometimes I'll listen to something, but I always want to, I call it priming. It's not like the Tony Robbins priming, but I'm just trying to get something positive inside my brain first thing in the morning.
Get a random text from Jimmy about 5 a.m.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it, dude. I read it and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I try and stay off my phone.
Yeah.
Deliberately.
Yeah.
I don't, so I keep my phone in do not disturb mode until about 9 a.m. And so anyway, I stretch, fill my mind with something positive, whether that's reading a book, listening to Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins or somebody. I want to get something positive in my brain. And then after I've kind of stretched, I've had my cup of coffee, I'll sit down at my desk and I'll start thinking about what needs to get done today. And I'll write out my to-do list. I've got 2 notebooks. So
Okay.
I've got it's kind of like a scratch pad.
Yep.
I just ideas flow and I write them down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of pull the most important things out of there and I put it on my real notepad.
So it looks like you're organized when people see it.
Why I do it.
This one looks cooler. This looks like I got myself
This one
together.
looks put together.
This is like what really happens.
Exactly.
This is real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's it, man. And then, I plan my day. Sometimes I'll send a couple emails if I've got a lot of stuff or if I've got something on my mind where I just keep thinking like, oh, I need to remember this or I need to take care of that. Then I'll just do it just to knock it out. And then I go to the gym and I'm at the gym for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Some people think I spend like hours in the gym. I don't.
Yeah.
Usually do some cardio and then a little bit of weight training, and then I'm home, shower, get ready, and I start the day.
Yeah. He stretches first.
Dude, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
But taking that time, and I'm sure some people are different. Not everyone's a morning person. I certainly wasn't. But taking that time in the morning and having that routine, I think, is something that's really allowed me to, move forward.
I'm going to say level up. But just
level up. That's it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So I was talking to someone the other day. They're like, Jimmy, you know what? got off the phone with you, and I talked to my husband. I was like, I feel like Jimmy's leveled up.
Yeah.
I was like, thanks for sharing that with me.
It's a good
I
feeling,
needed to hear
man.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Kiriokos. Not really. I just want to say his last name because I nailed it before the show.
You did nail it.
And so you sound like a doctor, but you're not a doctor.
I'm not.
What do you do?
So I sell real estate.
Okay.
I am licensed. Just I don't have a medical license.
Oh, really?
I mean, I will give you medical advice. Most of it's like psychological, but take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, right. To each their
But no,
own.
I sell real estate, and I try and do it a little differently. And that's actually, it's kind of, I think it's in my bio. Like I do real estate differently. So I practice what's called what I call relationship-based selling. So not just, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Let me open doors for you, and I can submit your offer, kind of thing. I try.
I'll negotiate.
Yeah. I'm a fierce negotiator. I'm a shark. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that want a shark, but I feel like, man, when people are buying a house, and there's a lot of first-time buyers right now, there are so many people that don't know the process, and real estate agents know it usually through and through, to a point where we skip over some of the important stuff.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of back up, start with the person, find out what's motivating the move, like what's sort of their why.
Yeah.
What are some of the obstacles that are standing in the way of selling the home or them buying a home, and then I want to help them do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that you were not a doctor because
Yes, I'm definitely not a doctor. Do not actually take any medical advice from me.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and get into business hacks. I'm going to skip around here. What kind of business hack do you have for our audience? Since,
man, I would say my single biggest hack has been persistence. Yeah. I tend to look at, I've hit so many walls in my life, like personally and professionally.
Yep.
And I'm talking about like the kind of walls where some people would just say like, let's go somewhere else or let's change directions. But I think that ability to persist and overcome or like climb that wall, no matter how long it took, is kind of what's allowed me to get to where I am now.
Yeah. Life hacks? Closely related.
Yeah. My first instinct was to say persistence again.
Yeah.
But the second thing that came to mind is a philosophy that I learned in my first job ever, which was a retail sales job at Best Buy. And it was this guy, he was kind of like my first mentor, and he said, if not me, who? If not now, when? And I kind of take that not just like on the business side of things, but also in life. If there's something that needs to be done in my world, there's no benefit of putting it off, and no one's going to come do it for me. You know? So,
well, I think maybe one reason that sometimes we have a hard time answering a life hack or a business hack, or for the audience, is my business coach, Michael Morrison. Your life affects your business, and like once you start getting them all in order, they're all about the same.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
They both affect each other, and so I think that's why sometimes that question's hard to distinguish between the two.
So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, and I don't mean to like turn the tables, but
yeah, let's do it.
So I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe that, first of all, I think almost everyone should be a business owner. I really do believe that.
I don't.
Okay, maybe not everybody. But I feel like being self-employed or being a business owner,
I'm with you.
You need to build your business to integrate into your life. I don't think that, and obviously not everyone can do this, but a big thing for me is like knowing this is what I do business-wise, and my life is kind of woven in through that. And
I agree with you on that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. A lot of people say like, oh man, you need to, take your evenings to spend time with your family. And I'm all about that.
Right.
But I also think that, you don't just have to carve out time in the evening for your family.
No.
Like, I think, you can carve out time anytime.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole.
No,
if I keep talking.
I agree with you. I mean, pick a industry or, a job that works with the lifestyle you want.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
That's
100%.
kind of what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah.
we do a lot of stuff in the evening with the families just because we have to, but our job can be, scheduled around that mostly. And if not, sometimes you miss something. You right?
Yeah.
All right. How'd you get where you are today? It was easy, right?
Incredibly easy. Dude, I'll tell you what,
so.
it was a piece of cake.
Learned it on YouTube. Learned it on YouTube.
As a matter of fact, I'll give YouTube a ton of credit for my personal development. But how did I get to where I am today? I would say I had a solid 2 years of this job that I was farming.
Okay.
And yes.
What kind of farm?
So large scale, like row crop farming, and we also raised cattle. So my ex-wife's father is a kind of a bigger scale ag guy out in the panhandle of Oklahoma.
So the ladies want to know, or men want to know, are you available?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Sorry, caught you off guard. You're like, what?
Wait, huh? Am I available for farming?
Yeah. Okay.
So I kind of, her and I had gotten married.
Yeah.
And he asked me if I wanted to come learn the family business. And, I'm eager and I'm a quick learner and I'm all about it. And so I jump in and started farming. And so I'm on the tractor 10, 12 hours a day and working cattle.
Air conditioned or not?
Dude, I'll tell you what, this was the most high-tech tractor.
Yeah,
I didn't know they made tractors
wasn't one with
like
just
this.
an umbrella then?
No. I'm telling you, this thing had autopilot,
Yeah, they got some cool
heating,
stuff on
air
it.
conditioning. Yeah, it was crazy.
Drive itself, yeah.
It was, yeah. But what was great about that was it gave me the time that I needed to listen to audiobooks, think about things. I had all these notes on my phone, and I would write on my phone while I was driving the tractor. And that time, it was about 2 years of just like reflection and learning. And I'm by myself the entire time.
Working on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time. It was just something that I felt obsessed with.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I look at it and I'm like, actually, have you ever heard someone say that, I've heard this a couple times recently, that every man or every person in their life should have a period of time where they go off and disconnect from everyone for, a year or a couple months or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it, but that's what I was doing. I was in the middle of nowhere, completely disconnected. And I would have days where literally not a single soul was seen.
You're happy to see a bird. You're like,
look, a bird. See like rabbits running on the ground, and I'm like, oh, life. But man, that was great. And it really gave me the fundamentals with regard to, what my philosophies would be going forward. And so I think that to sort of like lay the base.
Yeah.
And
You're
then
planting seeds.
It's planting seeds,
Literally.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just, stacking on top of that, just persistence. And I think one thing I learned that was probably the single biggest help was that we can really do anything we want in life. We just have to learn how to bridge the gap between where we are and where we're trying to go or what we're trying to do or get. And that gap is usually knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've also heard, like write what you're wanting to do and figure out how to get back down.
Yes.
Right?
That's a great way to say it.
Like reverse it. Like, how would I get from,
Absolutely.
I have to ask because you're texting in a tractor, right? And we want some entertainment value for these guys. Did you ever run into something with the tractor because you were texting?
Oh, God.
Did you?
Okay, so I didn't run into anything, but...
Just plowed it over? Like, sorry, that was a new picnic table.
There was one day I was on this field, and at the end of this row was it was actually like a big drainage ditch, but you kind of go up this hill, and there's a road up there. Well, I was not paying attention, and it's on autopilot. Thankfully, it's going very slow. But all of a sudden, I'm like on my phone, and the tractor just starts going like this. And I'm like...
I'm going up something.
So I panic and slam on the brake and stop everything. And thankfully, I didn't go up onto the road, but I almost did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's was always like whenever you're doing something for someone else, or you have some type of machinery and like something breaks, you're like, oh man, like the hardest part is telling someone, right?
Oh yeah. Well, because you never want to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a quick funny story for you.
Let's hear it.
So the first mess up that I had on that tractor was like a $15,000 mess up. because
Boys, happy you're married to my daughter.
and all it was a flat tire.
Oh, yeah.
So I got this tractor,
They're
and keep
expensive.
in mind this is like a $250,000 tractor, and it's hauling a $150,000 implement. You know, so this is a lot of money, and so I'm on this field, and there's this area that was wet, like we had a big rain the week before, and this was the low spot. I didn't realize it. And so while it looked dry, when you drive this thing over it, it just
it's super
sinks.
heavy.
Yeah, super heavy.
Yeah.
And so, I'm panicked, and I'm like, I got to get this thing out of here. They're going to be pissed. And I had these discs. They're like metal Frisbees.
Yeah.
And they're pretty big.
Yeah.
And
On the plow, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, I need something with a lot of surface area.
Yeah.
To
I know
get
where
these,
this is going.
Yeah. And so I get a few of them, and I slide them under the front tires, thinking, this will help get it up out of the mud.
Sliced it, huh?
It shredded those tires. And so then we were stuck trying to pull out this $250,000 tractor and implement with flat tires
tire.
on the front. Yeah.
That was awesome. Well, I'm sorry, but you can laugh at it now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I literally walked back to my pickup. I had to walk across this entire field, and I drove over to my father-in-law's house, knocked on the door, and I was like, I need to tell you something.
Yeah.
I messed up.
What did he say?
He was like, well, I explained the whole thing, and he's like, that's all right. We'll figure it out.
Happens all the time. Not really. Never happened before.
Never.
This is never.
Never has anyone done this.
So do you like the movie, what is it?
If you say son-in-law.
Yeah, son-in-law.
Oh,
Yeah. Was that what it was like?
If Leslie Russell, if you happen to be watching this, he's going to crack up.
Yeah.
Because he owned the tire shop out there where I farmed, and he would always crack that joke. He would call me, what was that guy's name? What were they called him?
I want to say Pauly Shore, but
It is Pauly Shore.
Is that it?
Yeah.
You should be. Joe,
Crawl.
you're happy about that, right? I actually knew a celebrity name.
Hey.
I never.
Crawl. That's
Yeah.
what they called
Hey,
him.
Crawl.
Crawl.
He's like,
yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. So anyway, that's
Didn't he
what they
make a
called me
weird
out there.
noise too? Like weasel or something? Or is that a different one?
No, that's probably Pauly Shore, for sure.
Weasel.
Yeah.
I like that movie.
That's good. Yeah. It's very much how it was.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. So you do have a YouTube channel.
I do. Yes.
And it's like
At Craig Kiriokos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's YouTube. It's real estate centric, but I also I do a podcast kind of on and off.
Yep.
And that concept is having interesting conversations with interesting people.
Yeah.
Again, real estate centric, but I just like to hear people's story.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So for our audience, the reason I wanted to bring this up is I think a lot of people are still on the fence. Should I start a YouTube channel? Should I start a podcast? What would you tell them?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think YouTube is great, especially if you're self-employed or if you're starting a business. If you think about where you go to answer or to have questions answered, for me, it's usually like I'll Google it or I'll go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of those two things.
Right.
And I think that's sort of the common theme with people. And so, in my mind, YouTube is where you would go as a business owner to answer the questions that other people have, and you're drawing them into your ecosystem, into your sphere.
Yep.
Right. And then you just create systems around that to convert business. So I mean, if you're a business owner, you're self-employed, I think it's an incredible opportunity.
Well, and to even add to that, if you're a salesperson and you want to generate leads, I mean, I think there's a lot of not just those other two. There's a lot going on out there.
100%.
Before the podcast, I told you I was going to ask you this question because I wanted to see if you were still doing your YouTube channel because I've been watching it recently, and you said that you're on the fence about maybe not doing it.
Yep.
Why did you start it back up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I originally created the podcast because, so the true reason is I was new to the area and new to the industry, and I had this idea that if I could bring people in and like interview them, or not interview, but have these conversations with them, I could use the podcast as a platform to meet these people that I did not have a relationship with,
Right.
and give them a platform to tell their story.
Right.
And so that builds trust and builds rapport, and then helps me get a better foothold in the business. and network, right?
Right.
So it really was my idea of how to network.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it, and I would do like 60 to 90 minute episodes. I think I did one 3-hour podcast. It was
Called
great.
it a live session.
It was really good, man. I remember that one. There's Starbucks. There was actually, there was a couple beers, and we started talking about the Illuminati, and you go down these rabbit holes. But anyway, I started the podcast to network, essentially. And then there's this guy who, this is why we have to be careful about who we choose to listen to. There's this guy that told me that no one's going to listen to a 60, 90-minute podcast, 120-minute podcast.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I took it personally because I had put so much into the podcast, and it really kind of messed me up for a little while. And so I stopped doing it, and I was trying to come up with these other ideas, like how could I create a shorter form podcast that accomplishes what I'm trying to accomplish and also provides value. And so I bounced a bunch of ideas around, and nothing was really ringing my bell. Mm-hmm. And I think what kind of changed my perception back to how it was I ran into this guy, and he asked me if I was still doing the pod. It was a different guy.
Yeah.
Ran into someone, and he says, "Are you still doing that podcast?" And I said, "Well, I kind of took a break, but I want to fire it back up." And he goes, "Man, you should definitely do that. I watched all your episodes. I loved it." And he said the thing that was cool about it was there was no real point. You're just having these conversations with people and asking questions and getting to know folks.
Yeah.
And it kind of dawned on me, like, people do get value from that. And I think when you have one of those longer form conversation style podcasts, we naturally, like, even if if someone was standing over here, they'd probably be eavesdropping on our conversation because we all want to be part of a conversation.
Right.
And so that's kind of what mine is.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then, so since he asked you about that, you're like, I'm starting this back up.
Heck yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because I never wanted to stop in the first place. The reason I stopped was because somehow I let this guy basically tell me that my podcast was not providing value and that no one was going to watch it.
To him.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
exactly. That's why we keep ours going too, because I'm networking, or like someone says something, I'm like, you just don't know who's listening and who's watching, even though they're not subscribed. Yeah. Because like some of those people aren't even subscribed that I've ran into, and are like, hey, by the way, I got to ask you, are you subscribed? No, I'm not. Can you send me a link? I send them a link, and it goes up to 1.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, and then. I have another side of that is, it's indexable with search engines and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
However, there's, Netflix, all of these other streaming, TVs, regular TV, whatever. Sometimes people just get tired of that, and then they just want to go watch something that they like. So it might be, behind the unicorn. Mm-hmm. I always say is binge worthy.
Yeah.
And, it's also a form of entertainment. So it's a different version of watching TV as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I tend to think of it like if you go to a get together, or say a barbecue in the spring or summer or something. It feels so natural to like sit out on the back patio or sit in some lawn chairs and just have conversations with people.
Yeah.
That I think is natural, and we all kind of want that bit of socialization. And so in my mind, just bringing that indoors into a studio, and having those conversations, people are naturally drawn to it.
What actions do you want our viewers to take?
Man, I don't think there's any actions that I would encourage anyone to take that would in some way like benefit me, but I would ask people to, if they're going to take action, do something for themselves.
Okay.
If they've been, so I think you and I can relate to this, but if you're having a problem in life,
sure.
Whether that be, you're struggling with weight or addictions, or you're having just problems, whatever it is, just know that like you can get out of it. You don't have to be stuck in that cycle. You don't have to be stuck there. There are definitely ways out. And so I would encourage someone, if they're having problems, maybe you could reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah.
But you can shoot me a message on Instagram at Craig Kiriokos.
Okay.
come check out the YouTube channel, reach out to me, whatever. I'm always here to help anyone that needs it.
Yeah. And I would even say too, whatever problem is going on in everyone's lives, there's always a group out there for it.
Yes.
So, check into the groups, search online and see what you can find is another way. Like maybe it's something that you don't want to talk to anyone else about that or whatever, but.
Well, and to that point, man, I'll also say that some of the greatest things in life happen when you kind of take off that mask or let that guard down,
sure.
and you do just talk with someone.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that total honesty is relieving. Yeah, and therapeutic.
That's funny. That's right into maybe not my last comment, but pretty close to the last is. The motivational piece here is, so how honest are you with yourself today versus in 2013?
Oh my gosh. Brutally honest. And I kind of think about this fairly regularly. I told myself a story from 2006 probably to really about August of 2013. And I told myself a story that just was not even anchored in reality. I was just like, I can't do these things. I'm gonna whatever it was. It was just negative. Yeah. And I don't know where exactly the shift happened. It was probably something that happened over time. Yep. But my being honest with myself about the things that are happening in my life, where I am, and being realistic and pragmatic about things, but also understanding that the actions that I take right now today directly impact my future in, an hour, 2 days, a week, a month, a year, whatever. And there's that quote, you reap what you sow. Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, when they think about whether or not a day was successful or a good day, they judge it based on what was the harvest of the day? What did I get done? What good things happened? And one of the things that really shifted for me was looking at or judging the success of a day, not based on the harvest, but based on the seeds that were planted. And just understanding that if I'm out there every day planting good seeds and then I'm nurturing those and helping them grow, eventually there's going to be a harvest. Yeah. And so I just detach from the outcome and plant seeds.
Awesome. So go get uncomfortable, get motivated. Yeah. And
plant seeds.
Yeah. And then if you don't think you can do it, go do it.
You can. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
All right, guys, subscribe. Thank you to DesignTunnel for the space and for the awesome work. And thank you, Craig. I said Chris earlier between takes, and I was like, I don't know why I just said Chris, and so now I'm second guessing.
And I'm like,
Craig, Chris.
No, I will say before we wrap it up, man, this is a super sweet studio. And
thanks. Appreciate it.
I've had a little makeshift studio at my house.
Yeah, yours looks great. Go look at his YouTube channel.
But I'm now interested in doing something in here because this is rad. So
awesome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, there we go. And a handshake.
Yeah, baby.